Hey, what's up everybody, Retro Gaming Guy here. Today I'm coming at you guys with part 2 of my review video for the Anbernic RG353P Handheld video game console. So in part 1, I jumped into an external tour of the handheld itself. We tested out buttons, we looked at the layout, the quality of the build, all that good stuff. I feel like we definitely covered all the bases in that regard, so I'm not going to spend any time going over layout here. If you want to see all of that and you didn't see part 1, drop down to the description of this video. I'll put a direct link in there to part 1. You can check that out, or I'll put a link on screen for you guys real quick. Click on that, you'll see part 1. Jump back over here, because in this video I'm going to dive into more of the gameplays and test this out a little bit further. With the first video, I went with the stock card that came with this when I purchased this brand new, and it's actually a pretty decent selection of games, but very limiting for the more demanding collections like PlayStation, N64, Dreamcast, PSP, and there was no Sega Saturn on the stock card. So I wanted to create my own build, which I did. I put hundreds of games for all of these collections on here, so I'm able to test out a whole lot for the Anbernic RG353. So now I have a better understanding of where the performance is. Everything seemed really promising before, but now I was able to actually test everything out in great detail, because you have to remember, when they give you a card for their handheld, you buy it from them, they're not going to put games on there that are tough for the system to handle. They're not going to put a game that's, you know, full of screen tearing and stuff like that. It's just not a good look for them. So I definitely wanted to do some more in-depth testing with these games. So I added Sega Saturn, added more to PSP, PlayStation, N64, and Dreamcast. So let's dive into a couple different gameplay demos to see exactly what the performance is like on the Anbernic RG353P. Alright guys, you saw some Sega Saturn in here first off. Sega Saturn ran extremely well. I was really impressed with this because Sega Saturn is one of those collections that's just really tough to emulate. Doesn't matter if you're on a handheld or single board PC or even a more basic entry-level sort of PC for retro gaming. Usually you're going to run into some slight lags at the very least in cases of like the Raspberry Pi or a lot of models prior to this one from Anbernic. You're not able to get into them at all. So performance here was great. No screen tearing, lags, delays, audio cutouts, nothing like that. I jumped into a lot of light gun games, and while I do experience slight difficulties with playing light gun games, obviously on a handheld because I'm not using a light gun, it's still a great experience. I just burn through more lives because reaction time is definitely slower on a handheld than using like a Wii Remote if you're into emulation or some of the other awesome light guns out there. So really great experience in Sega Saturn. Let's talk about PSP. PSP is one of those collections that's really demanding for handhelds, especially Anbernic's handhelds, and I find that you are able to jump into more games well on this particular model than previous models from Anbernic. I can't say every single game for PSP is going to work flawlessly, but I didn't go in and make any settings adjustments for these games that we demoed today in this video. So performance here definitely right out of the gate is better than previous models. Let's take Tekken for example. Previously in Tekken I had to go in, adjust frame rates to make the experience more enjoyable. In this case, right off the bat, right out of the gate, I was able to jump in and have a great experience without doing anything with frame rates or other various adjustments. So to me, that means that this chipset and everything within this handheld is definitely a solid step in the right direction. Past models definitely kind of struggled with PSP more so than what we're experiencing here with the RG353P. So PlayStation 1, everything's perfect in there. I didn't run into any issues whatsoever. N64, it's also a really tough collection to emulate. And for N64, I find that the majority of the games run extremely well. That's not to say you're not going to run into a slight little hiccup here and there in gameplay for some games. I find that in like Mario Kart 64, that's definitely the most popular N64 game to emulate. Cutscenes or like load-ins, I see like slight little lags or hiccups, but the gameplay itself is perfect in my experience. So, these little issues or hiccups that you see here and there, it's definitely not enough to ruin the experience, but just keep in mind that I wouldn't say N64 is 100% perfect, but that's pretty typical for emulating N64 unless you're using a beefy PC or a gaming PC, and then N64 would be absolutely perfect. Just keep that in mind. Not perfect, but pretty close to it, and definitely in my experience, the best option from Anbernic to date. Now Dreamcast I found to be really good. No issues in Dreamcast at all. Really happy with the experience. Soul Calibur, for example, I'm really familiar with Anbernic products. Previous models, there's been a lot of screen flickering. Sometimes you can better that with the game settings, but it's hit or miss. It's not always perfect. And in this case, I found it to be pretty much perfect. So again, another indication that we have a solid step in the right direction here. So overall, really happy with the performance on this particular handheld, and I would definitely recommend it to people that are looking for a handheld that can play these collections or up to these collections really well. If you're looking to get into collections beyond these that I've mentioned here in this video, then I wouldn't recommend this handheld. Yes, there's some GameCube that you can get into through the Android side, but it's extremely limiting, and oftentimes you can get into some games, but the experience within crumbles and falls apart really quickly. So I'm not talking about the Android side here because I really haven't spent much time in the Android side. I'm not a fan of Android at all in terms of handheld gaming. I just find it to be really unpleasant to navigate and to set everything up. It's just really extensive to do the settings and all that stuff. I like the Linux side, even if that means that some games and some game collections have a slightly less positive experience. For me, it's just not worth jumping in there and tweaking settings and pulling my hair out. I don't have enough of that left to really dive in and do all of that. So Linux is the side that I like to go into. I like having everything on the cards, booting up, jumping it right into games, and not having to worry about navigating my way through RetroArch and adjusting all the settings and all that stuff. It's just not for me. So If you enjoyed this video and you found this information helpful, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up on this video. It's a huge help to me here on YouTube. And of course, hit that subscribe button to stay in the loop for all future videos here on the Retro Gaming Guy YouTube channel. If you want a direct link to pick up one of these handhelds or to get additional information on it, drop down to the link in the description of this video. I put a couple down there because there's a couple different color options for this particular handheld. But that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for the support. I'll see you on the next video.